In this lesson, we'll conclude the course with a recap of all the speed modeling tips that we have been speaking about throughout all these lessons. Now, the first one that I'm going to mention is quite a general tip, and it is basically not to worry about being too precise when you are starting a project and working conceptually. AutoCAD, 3D Max, and all of these digital programs, they do have the ability to zoom into the millimeter, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to work in the millimeter. You can work in 3D or in AutoCAD or in any one of these programs in a way that you would work freely by hand with a big piece of charcoal. So just try and think of yourself as an artist working on paper and not necessarily a precision modeler who is trying to get things to be too correct from the beginning. So one of the ways to avoid being too precise is just don't zoom in. Try to keep your project looking quite zoomed out on your screen, and you should be able to, in that way, avoid trying to go in and fix up every little bit of detail that you may see being incorrect. Then again, think like Michelangelo. Hammer first and then work on the details. This is really just repeating the same thing. Try to imagine your building as just a block of stone that you have to hammer at first, then use a smaller chisel, and then come in with a fine brush and carve away all the details. It's pretty much the same process that goes into what we do architecturally and what may happen in the real world when we're working on a scale model or a sculpture or anything of that sort. Afterwards, another tip is to use hand sketches to design. I have seen so many people try to design things within AutoCAD and within 3D Max or within any other software, and they often get frustrated because they don't have that freedom that your hand allows you to get. Now, we can fortunately take our work, we can print it out, we can sketch over it, and then we can put those designs back and test them out in 3D and test them out in AutoCAD. And that is a much quicker workflow because your hand is quicker than the mouse and the keyboard. Then trust your gut. The first option is usually the best. The world of digital design has brought in a huge wave of options, and the only thing that people do inside architectural offices is just work on options all day. It seems to be the most current thing that everybody's doing. 20 years ago, when we never had all the software, people wouldn't do 30 options for a facade, but they do it today because it is so fast. So be very careful that if your workflow starts becoming too quick, people will start asking you for 3 times as many options because you can produce them so quickly. So this is one of those things where I don't believe that 10 options is better than 1. I believe that your gut is always true and that the first option is always the best. In terms of a more precise modeling workflow, know the site and the floor areas from the start, just before you start modeling. The reason being is that you can design a really cool looking building and then come back and retrofit it with an area schedule and then realize that nothing really fits. But it's not really going to help knowing that your building looks absolutely awesome if it doesn't fit onto the site and if the floor areas just don't add up within your building. So getting those right from the start is going to help you to speed up because you're not going to have to redo things as you go down the line of designing your building. The second one is set up your scene in 3D Max early to create progress renders. Even if it's a single cube that is 5 stories high and 20 by 10 meters wide and long, just doing a render of that already is a progress render. So having your scene set up with lighting and cameras and some basic materials is going to help you to get those progress renders out done from the beginning. The next one is to create single objects. We've done this many times during the course. Instead of creating a space frame out of individual pyramids and then instancing them around several hundred times, we created a single editable poly and then we basically subdivided it and worked on that single object. And that has been one of the key ingredients to having an easy and quick workflow, because at the end of the day, your entire model, even though it looks complex, is just an assembly of 5 or 6 objects instead of several hundred. That obviously brings a level of simplicity which allows you to work quicker. Next is create new elements from previously created source objects. So I always try to look for elements that are around a certain object that I'm making. If I'm making window frames, I'm going to first look at the glass and extract the window frame geometry from the glass geometry. If I'm putting people onto a pavement, I'm going to choose that pavement object as my distribution object to scatter the people around. So every time you're going to be creating one object from another, and that saves a lot of time because you don't have to recreate things over and over and over. So a couple of final speed tips. These are a little bit less serious, just to finish off on a funny note. Basically, take regular breaks. Just because you want to model quicker doesn't mean that you should model longer and speed up your click-through rate as you click on your mouse. Taking a break sometimes allows you to think quicker when you are working, and it definitely doesn't always look good in an office once you step away from your desk. But if it does help you to work faster when you are at your desk, then definitely don't take it too seriously when you are behind a computer for 10 hours a day. The next one is work with music, headphones, and avoid distractions. There are so many times that I have seen people working in offices where they are constantly trying to speak to 5 people at once while doing their work, while picking up their phone, and it's just never going to happen that their work can be done efficiently and quickly, no matter how well they can model or how many tips that they follow. If they are constantly being distracted, they're never going to get anywhere. And the last one is the best of all, is just turn off your Wi-Fi. This is exactly one of those things that distracts us the most, is having those messages come up, having Skype beep in the background, having an email come in that you just have to answer that minute. All of these things are what actually slow us down. It's not because we model badly, it's because our environment doesn't allow us to work efficiently. So once we clear all of these things off the plate, have a good environment to work in, we can basically get work done much better. So hopefully throughout this course I have gone and communicated all these things clearly to you, and I hope that all of these tips that I'm just flicking through right now are making sense to you, and that you are able to apply them into your workflow, into your professional work, into your projects that you do on the side. And I definitely hope that they help you, and obviously good luck, and thanks a lot for watching the course, and thanks very much for supporting what we do, and thanks for your time, especially throughout this long course. So all the best to you, have a fantastic day, and see you in the next course.